this is Gina. Today I'm going to show you how to make two really easy beading chain necklaces with the Winter Wonders Treasure Bag. However, this is a techniques video, so you can do this regardless if you have the treasure bag or not. And I do have most all of these things on my website, so if you're really itching to try it and you want the exact same stuff, you can come and check it out. Anyway, and that's ggctreasures.com. But anyway, this is what we're going to make today. They go really fast. They turn out really pretty. They will be excellent gifts for somebody. And we'll be doing both necklace and earrings. And let's go ahead and get started with the first necklace. Okay, first we're going to make a little necklace and earring set. This is going to be very fast moving, very cute and easy to do, and would make a great gift. So what we're going to be using from the treasure bag, however, I do have most of this stuff online. I do have some of these barrel beads left over and stuff I'll get listed, but if you want to make this necklace exactly how it is, then you can get what you need. However, this is a techniques video and you can use whatever you have in your stash to duplicate what I'm doing and make it the same but different. So what we're going to be using is this little star. It's in gunmetal color. It's a little star pendant, and we're going to use that. And then we're going to use 4 of the barrel beads that were in your bag. You got 8 of them. We're going to use 4 in the silver color. Then we're going to use 4 of the little clamshell bead tips that were in the treasure bag. And all these things are very easily gotten, and most people have them in their stash. Then we're going to use an English cut, or it's a star cut or pentagon faceted clear bead here. So it's about 6 millimeters round, and there's a full strand of 100 beads in your bag. So you should have plenty to do, plenty projects with them. So we're going to use some of those. We're going to add to the treasure bag. I have some 4 millimeter round non-magnetic synthetic hematite beads, which is an electroplated glass bead. And I have these in my store if you want some, but it doesn't matter. You can use whatever you would like to use as a little spacer in between. You can just use another one of the beads in the bag. You can grab something from your stash. It doesn't matter. So I'm going to use some of those. And then I am going to use from the treasure bag one of the clasps. And by the way, there's 8 in the bag, not 10. I messed up, sorry. And then I'm going to add to the bag 2 ear wires. I'm going to use some 8-0 seed beads in the nickel tone, or nickel toho 8-0s. And I am going to use some size 1 Beading crimp tubes. You can use a size 2 if you'd like, but you'll have to crimp them down in the traditional way. With these, you can just close them down. So this is a Beading size 1 in the silver tone. And then we're going to cut from the beading chain that you got in your bag. You got 2 yards of beading chain. You're going to cut 17 inches is what I have cut. It depends on how long you want your necklace to be. I'm shooting for an 18-inch necklace, so I am going to use 17 inches. And then you're going to cut 2 pieces that are 2 3/4 inches long for the earrings. And all you're going to need for this, if you're using a size 1 crimp tube, is some little flat nose pliers and some flush cutters, and perhaps a pair of chain nose pliers too to help you open and close your jump rings, and we will be using about 4 jump rings. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, to start this, the first thing I'm going to do is put a jump ring on my pendant so that it'll hang correctly on my chain. So I am going to grab one of these. It's about a 4 millimeter jump ring, 3 millimeter interior, and we're going to go ahead and just find the opening, place your pliers on one side of that opening, and then place another pair of pliers on the other side of the opening and just crank that little guy open, just like that. And then put it on the pendant and close it the same way you opened it. Just crank it back. Make sure it closes tightly so it doesn't fall off your chain. And then we're going to take our 17-inch piece of chain, or whatever you cut. Now, if you want a smaller, if you're very small, you might want to cut 15 inches to end up with 16. If you're bigger, you might want to cut 18 inches or 19 inches to end up with a 20-inch necklace. So now I'm just going to take my beading chain, and that jump ring does not close properly. Yay. Okay, we're just going to keep going anyway. I'm going to slide my pendant onto my chain, and then I'm going to take both ends and put them together and center that pendant. And then I'm just going to bead a little bit in the front of this necklace. So I want to start with, I'm going to pick up 3 of my 8/0 seed beads on one side of my necklace, and then I will pick up 3 on the other side. Now, if you're having a hard time picking up your beads on your chain, you can put a little bit of super glue on the end of the chain and let it harden, and that will help you. Then we're going to pick up 3 more on this side. Oops, come here, you little escapee. And then 1 more. And then I'm just going to center everything again by putting my ends together and just kind of keep it centered. It's going to get off-centered several times, but we'll just keep recentering it. Now, let me rearrange my camera so you can actually see what I'm doing. And there we go. Now I am going to just bead up the side a little bit here. So I'm going to pick up one of my hematite beads. You can use any spacer bead you want. You can use something that's in the bag. You don't have to use one. You can bead this any way you want to make it pretty for your taste. So we're going to put 1 on either side. And I think I'll just do one side first, so, well, maybe not. We'll do it like that, and then I'm going to pick up a clear bead, and I'm going to put it on either side. And then another hematite bead. It is good to do both sides that way because we're going to stabilize this centerpiece with some crimp beads. So that way you can just have everything in line the way you want it and stay on center. So I'm doing this on camera, and I know I'm boring you to death, but you know what? It has to be that way. Then we're going to put a barrel bead on both sides here. And then I'm going to repeat this little pattern here. So I'm going to pick up another of my hematite beads. And these are 4mm round. Like I said, I have most all this stuff on the website. If you really want to make one of these, I will get everything listed so that you can do this. But I have beading chain, I have the barrel beads, I have the 4mm round beads, I have the pentagon beads, I have all of this stuff. So, okay, now I think I'm going to continue putting on that side, and then I will do this side, and I think that's all the beads I'm going to put on it. You can put more, you can put less, you don't have to put any at all for that matter, but I'm designing and playing around. And so now I'm going to center everything again. So I just picked up my chain and push it down, because with the beads on it, you have to kind of use gravity to kind of get them in place there. And then we're going to split these apart, try to keep everything centered. And I'm going to grab one of my little tiny size 1 Beadalon crimp tubes. So I'm just going to slide that on. both sides. Now, this is going to stabilize our centerpiece so it doesn't slide all over the chain. And you want to make sure that you have everything pretty much centered at this point. Everything looks the way you want it. Make sure your beads are close together. And then you're just going to pick up, let's see, your flat nose pliers. I'm using a skinny flat nose plier, and I'm going to get you in close so you can see what this looks like. And I'm just going to grab a hold of one of these crimp beads, and I am going to squeeze it tight. Make sure you squeeze it really tight so that everything stays in place. And then I'm going to push the other side close together. And this one I'm not going to push on the beads. I'll push on the beads first, and then I'll just kind of move maybe a millimeter up so that my beads aren't stiff, and then I'll squeeze again. And now I have stabilized my centerpiece. And just make sure your crimp beads are squeezed really well, or it will move around. And I think mine is moving around. No, it isn't. No. It's just that I have some space between my beads a little bit here, so I didn't crimp it off really tight because I want this to have flexibility. I don't want it to be really stiff. It'll hang weird and it just won't have any fluidity if you really tightly crimp those down. So you want about a millimeter of movement in there. And then we're going to finish the ends. So we're going to take one of these little bead tips, these little clamshell guys, and we're going to slide it in the chain. Now, if these holes are kind of closed or being weird, just take something skinny. I usually use my little needle nose tweezers, and I just kind of open it up a little bit, and you can do that. And then after you've slid that on, and you make sure that the clamshell portion is up towards the end of your chain, and the bottom where the hole is facing towards the body of your necklace here. Then you're going to pick up one of your little crimp tubes and put it on the end of the chain. And you know, before we do this, we should probably make sure that both sides are the same, because it can get off center. And let me see if mine, yeah, it looks like my ends are pretty close together here. It looks like I stayed really centered. But before you put your ends on, make sure you can always trim off a little bit if one is longer than the other and make them even. And then again, I'm going to go from the bottom of the clamshell, the outside, and I'm going to push my chain through. And then I'm going to grab one of my little crimp beads, and I am going to just slide it on the end of the chain here. And I will leave about a millimeter sticking out. So I'm just going to go to the end of the chain like this. Let me get you in real close. Let me move this over here and get you in so I don't lose a bunch of my length. But I want a little bit sticking out at the end here so that it gives a little bit of security to it. Then I am going to squeeze it shut really, really tight. Now I'm going to take my clamshell and I'm going to bring it up over that little crimp bead, and I'm going to close it. I'm going to grab my flat nose pliers. These particular clamshells that are in the bag, if you put it together, kind of straighten it out because they want to fold kind of weird, and then squeeze this top piece flat, it'll kind of adhere to itself. So I'm going to close this part, and then I'm going to squeeze that part, just like that. And then I can do the other end exactly the same way. So I'll slide my little clamshell on here and then pick up a little tiny crimp bead. Like I said, these are round crimp beads. They're not the tubes, and they're small. They're size 1. I have a video called Beading Chain 101, and if you look that up on my channel, it'll show you all kinds of different ways to use your crimp beads and end this. So you can use regular crimp tubes also. You don't have to get size 1 rounds if you don't want to. That's not a big deal. It's just that you have to use your crimping pliers to do that. So I'm just arranging it on my chain. So just slippery little devil. Get this back. Put it back through there. I'm arranging it on my chain till I have just a little bit coming out, and then I'm going to squeeze. There we go. And if you have too much hanging on the end, you can trim it down because you don't want it to hang out of your clamshell. But you want a little bit. It's just kind of for security reasons. You can also put a drop of glue in here if you'd like, but I don't like working with glue, so I avoid it at all costs. So then after you scoot it up and close it, arrange it so if it closed kind of cockeyed, then you want to kind of straighten it out and then squeeze that top piece, squeeze the body, squeeze the top piece a couple times, and it should stay together pretty good. See, once you squeeze this part up here, it kind of welds itself together. Then we are going to take a lamp. We're going to take a jump ring and a clasp. So I'm going to place on either side of the opening of the jump ring some pliers, crank it open, and grab a hold of my toggle, and then I'm just going to put that jump ring through the little loop on the clamshell, and then I'm just going to close it. And these jump rings, I keep saying I'm going to get some different ones, but I keep using these and I hate them. They're awful. They're just not cut right. But I'll deal with that in a minute. So now I am going to grab another jump ring and put the other end on. And where's the other end? There it is. So I'll just put it on here. And on there. And voila, I have a necklace. So I straighten it out so you can see what it looks like. And it's really cute. I really like it. I think the colors worked out really well. And like I said, you can use any kind of spacer beads you want or any beads around it that you would like. And I think that turns out really nice. Just like that. And then we're going to make some earrings to match. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab one of these pieces of wire here, or not wire, chain, and we are going to start by putting a little crimp tube on the end of it. So we're going to, these little crimp beads are crazy hard to handle here. They're so little. Okay, so let me get you close. You can see I have just a tiny bit hanging out of the end there. And I am going to squeeze this on. Then I'm going to do the other one too. I'm going to do these together so that I can keep my measurements pretty much the same as I do this. I can compare them to each other and make sure that my spacing is correct. So I want basically the same amount hanging out the end, and you can clip that down too. At the end we might clip it down a little bit, but you want enough just to work with. So I'm going to squeeze that little crimp bead on there, and then I am going to grab one of my barrel beads and I'm going to put it on. Let me back off a little bit here. I'm going to put a barrel bead on both of them. And how long you cut your chain will be what determines how dramatic of a drop you'll make for this, because this is a drop earring, and if you want it really long, it can be really long. If you want it shorter, it can be really short. It's just up to you. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to put a hematite 4mm round on here. And then I'm going to put on the same thing on this side. Come here, you little hole. Okay, so, yeah, I'm very coordinated. Can't you tell? Okay, so this is what I have. And now I did not put out enough crimp tubes, obviously, so I need to find my little crimp tubes and get a couple more out, because I want to stabilize these at the bottom, otherwise they just dangle all over the place. So I'm going to put a crimp tube on each one. Come here. Come here, come here. Oh, come here, please. There we go. Okay, so now I don't want to crimp them incredibly tight, but I don't want really any slack either. So I'm just going to grab a hold of my flat nose plier, and I'm holding onto the back of the chain, and then I'm going to kind of push on my beads and squish that down. Make sure you squish it down nice and tight so it doesn't come loose, and then do the other side. Okay, tighter. There we go. Now we can determine how long we want. I actually did make a pair of these earlier just to see what the clamshell would look like. We're going to use a clamshell to end the top of it and hang from our ear wire. And I kind of like this length, so I'm going to, I think I'm going to cut it right about here. See if I can keep them the same, just like that. And if you don't like the look of the clamshell in the end, which I'm going to show you how to do, there are other methods, and one that looks even better, but because we have clamshells, I'm using them. But there are little tiny crimp tubes like this with a little loop on the top, and you just use your crimp plier and you can put these on the end, and they turn out really nice. They make a really nice finish, and I have those in the store if you want some. And on Beading Chain 101 I will show you how to use them, and maybe on one of these videos too, since we have bead chain in the bag. But you can do this too. However, I don't think this looks too horrible. I thought it might look bad, but this doesn't look bad. So we're going to do it this way. We're going to get a couple more of our clamshells out, and we're going to drop them down on the wire. So from the bottom of the clamshell, the bottom outside, and here is what I was telling you, sometimes they're just not real easy to get into, so I just take my tweezers and I just put it in there, just kind of spin it around a little bit, and then I can usually get the chain through just fine. Sometimes they're just kind of jaggedy and they just keep you from going in. So we did that. Now we're going to need 2 more crimp tubes, so let me get 2 more of those out, and that one's stuck together. So I've got these 2, and I am going to slide the crimp tube on to the chain and bring it to the end, and then I am just going to grab it with the flat nose pliers, put it where I want it, and squeeze it really tight. So you see I have just a tiny bit of chain hanging out the end. Then I'm just going to bring this up, squeeze it closed. Then I will squeeze it closed with my pliers once. Don't go crazy because you'll bend it like I just did. And then I'm going to squeeze right at the top of the little loop, and then I'm going to, or the top where the dome part is, and then I'm going to go to the very top here and squeeze. And you can see that just kind of welds together really nice once you do that. Make sure they're lined up pretty well before you do that. If they're not lining up well, line them up as best as you can and then do that. Then we're going to drop another clamshell down. And we're going to pick up a little crimp bead. I'm going to grab it with my pliers here and arrange it where I want it, right here, and squeeze. Bring this little guy up. You could put a drop of glue in here, like I said, if you want to. I just don't think it's necessary. I'm going to squeeze this tight. Just make sure your crimp tube is tight. Then I'm going to squeeze here, squeeze a little bit here. And then you can see they kind of came apart, so I'm going to push them back together. And then I'm going to squeeze up here. And just weld this together, just like that. And that's what I have. Now I can grab an ear wire and I can just find the opening on the ear wire. Which side opens? Oh, I have the right side, I think. Maybe not. Maybe so. Okay, open you. There we go. This is a stiff ear wire. And then I'm just going to make sure that it goes on there nice. Close it. It doesn't really matter which side. I was going to say I'm going to make sure which side, but it doesn't matter because both sides look the same. So there's that. And then I will do the same on this one. Open the ear wire. Drop the earring on. And close it. And then I think I will trim these little ends just a little bit more. So I'm just I'll leave a little bit hanging out, but I'm going to take just a little bit of that off. Yeah. Okay, so now I have a necklace and earring set. Take you about 20 minutes to make, maybe. And, oh, come on. Let's get in camera. Come on, camera. And that's what that looks like. I think it turned out really cute. Of course, I have it on a dark background. So let me see if I grab a piece of paper so you can see it just a little bit better. Oh no, then my camera goes nuts. So anyway, we're not gonna worry about that, but it turns out really, really, really pretty. It's a really cute set. So there's one quick project for you. Hope you liked it. Okay. We're going to do project number 2 now, and I just laid out a little design on my bead mat here. People always ask me how I design. I just laid something out. I think it looks really cute. I'm going to do it basically the same way I did the other necklace, and what we're going to be using is we have some of these little bail hangers. We're going to use one of those, and I have placed it here. We're going to use the red pendant, 2 of the large bicone crystals in red, and then you have 3mm gold spacer beads in your bag. You have a whole strand of them, so we're going to use 4 of them. No, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 of them. And then I'm going to use the gold clasp this time. I've cut again 17 inches of my beading chain, and I've got a couple of the ends here, the clamshell ends, and some crimp tubes out, or not tubes, but the little size 1 beadalons, and one of my jump rings. So this is gold this time. I'm going to do it in gold because I'm going to mix the 2 tones. I have a silver bail, and my findings on my pendant are gold, so I'm going to use this gold jump ring to connect this all together and string it up. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to open up the jump ring, and this is about a 6mm jump ring. I didn't have anything much smaller. A smaller one would be good, but this is what I have, so this is what I'm using. And I'm just going to open it just like I showed you earlier, and I'm going to place my pendant on it. And then I'm going to pick up my little bail guy. So this little dangle hanger bail thing, we're going to put that on. Now I'm curious to see, I probably have to put some seed beads or something underneath this bail because my beading chain is very small and the hole in my dangle bail thing is pretty big. So I'm going to probably have to place something underneath it to hold it together. So this is what I've got so far. Let me rearrange here so you can see what I'm doing. And I have just put a jump ring on the pendant, put it on the bail here to make sure that it's going to hang right because of the fact that I have 3. Yeah, that's going to be okay. So now I think I will go ahead and grab, maybe I'll get out some 8-0 in golden color. Let's see if I have some gold 8-0s. And if I don't, I'm going to have to run around like a lunatic. So, let me see. I know I have some nearby. Where are they? All right, I'll be right back. Okay, so I changed my mind. I'm going to use these little 3mm round gold beads. You have a full strand of them. So, we're going to use those, and we're going to balance this pendant with those. I got my little pendant all dirty. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. We are going to put on either side of the beading chain these 3mm round beads. Let me see if they're going to go on here nice. Yeah, they'll be fine. So we're going to put one of those on one side. Then I'm going to drop the silver bail thing on the other side. Like this. And then I'm going to put another one on this side. And I'm going to see if that will hold everything. Yeah, see, that will make a perfect balance. Once I tighten everything up, let me get up so you can see. Once I put all my other beads on and then I secure them down, that's going to work really good. So we're going to use 2 of those, and then we are going to, I messed up my little design, we're going to pick up the crystals and put them on. And you have red crystals too, so if you wanted to, of the same type of these, so you could put a red one in between if you wanted to. I had the clear ones out from the last necklace. You can do this any way you want. You can do this with the blue pendant and the blue beads, whatever you want. So we're just going to do this. And then I'm going to drop on another gold spacer on either side and my red So I'm going to go off camera. I'm going to bead this. I'll come back and show you exactly what I have. And then we'll secure this down and do our ends. Okay, so this is how I have beaded mine. I've got my little bail in the middle, 3mm round, and then 3 6mm rounds, and then a 3mm round gold, and then my big bicone, a 3mm round, and then my 3 crystals, and then 3mm round, and then I have gone ahead and dropped my crimp bead on there. So I have my little size 1 crimp bead on there. So I'm going to take both of the ends and I'm going to put them together. I'm going to lift this up somewhat. I know you can't really see what I'm doing, but I'm going to lift it up and make sure everything's centered. and then I'm just going to lay it down gently, and then I'm going to crimp off one side. You can't really push on it because you'll push it off center. So just crimp one side on your crimp bead there, and then you can push this side. Now we want these beads to stay together. We don't want it so tight that we have this real rigid, strange thing. So let me get this in camera. But you want to make sure, recenter this, that you don't have your beads spreading apart, because it's holding the bail area together the way it is now. So to get it back where it was, and now I can, since this side is secure, secure it some more, I can take this side and I can push on it a little bit, just making sure I have no slack, but not making it incredibly stiff. And then I'm just going to crimp this one. And then I have everything stabilized here. I'm going to go to the end. I'm going to line all this up because I think I got off center, and I did. So what I can do is I can cut them even. And I have decided, instead of using a toggle clasp, I'm going to use a lobster claw. The colors just go better. The clasps in here are a little bright, too bright for this particular color I'm using. So I've just cut that even, and because I'm using an extender, and because the clasping adds extra, I'm not really going to lose much. So you don't want to get horribly off center, but a little bit. It won't hurt anything for you to trim it down. And then I am going to put my clamshell ends on. Then I'm going to use a lobster claw with a jump ring. And then I'm going to use a jump ring and a jump ring, a heavy jump ring. Oops, I guess you can't see anything I'm doing. There we go. So I'm going to use a lobster claw and a jump ring, and I'm going to use a jump ring and a jump ring just for some movement on my clamshells. So again, I need a little crimp tube. I'll show you how to do one end since we already did this once, and then we'll do the other end off camera, or maybe I'll just do it, I don't know. But we're going to put our clamshell on bottom side first, just like we did last time, so that the opening is towards the end of the chain. And then we're going to put on our crimp tube. Once again, same thing, bring it to the end, just leave a little bit out, and then squeeze that. So make sure you have squeezed it very securely. Bring your clamshell up, close the clamshell, gently push it closed like that, and then go right where the end of that loop is and squeeze that part, and then go to the top and squeeze it. Just make sure they're lined up first, and then we can just put on our lobster claw and our jump ring. And then on the other side, I'll put on a jump ring. I'll hook the two jump rings together and put it on my lobster claw, or on my clamshell, on something, you know, something with a loop. That's all matters, I guess. Okay, so I'm going to put this on, and I'm using a rather big jump ring, so you can use smaller ones. It doesn't matter. I just thought since I lost a tiny bit of length, then I would do that. But it doesn't look bad. So I've got the mix of my metals here, and it looks pretty. So I'm going to go ahead and do the other side with the clamshell. Put on my jump rings. I'll just connect the jump rings together, and then I'll connect it from the small jump ring to my clamshell, and we'll come back. I think while I'm off camera, I'll design an earring, and we'll come back and make an earring. Okay, so here's my endings. How pretty is that? It turned out really pretty. I love the silver and the gold together. It looks really good. So there is the entire necklace, and I think it's really pretty. It looks really nice. And I still have enough fluidity in it, even though I made sure that everything was touching and there was no slack and movement between the beads. It's still fluid enough to where it'll hang nice and look good. Just don't strangle your beads to death when you put your crimp beads on, but make sure there's no slack. Now, I am going to show you how to make an incredibly simple earring. And I probably don't even need to show you, it's kind of obvious, but what I wanted to talk to you about were these little tiny skinny horrible ball head pins that we all end up with. You order them and this is what you get. Well, I'm going to go ahead and use one. Now, if you have a longer one than I do, you'll have to cut yours down a little bit, but I'm going to use one. I'm going to straighten it out. You can straighten out with your fingers. That's how soft it is. So it generally doesn't make a real good little loop because it wouldn't hold the loop. But we're going to go ahead and I'm going to show you how to make that work. For something simple like this, I'm just going to put my crystal on, and then I'm going to put my gold bead on. And then I am going to take my pliers and I'm going to bend this over in a 90-degree angle just like this. Now, mine is short. It's about 3/4 of an inch, probably maybe a little bit longer. But I can take to the end of this and stay in the same place on your pliers, turn as far as you can, and then take your plier out, put it back in, and just start turning like this. And just keep turning. Stay in the same part of your pliers as much as you can, and just make a little loop and tighten it down against that bead. And now you can see, get you close, I have a double loop on there. It's nice and neat. It looks good. You can always tighten it up even a little bit more. You tighten it, you just keep rolling it and tighten it up as tight as you can against that top bead there, and now it's very secure and it can actually be used as a head pin, whereas before, I mean, if I just made a loop on this, it's just going to pull right apart. These, and we all end up with these really skinny, really terrible little ball head pins. They're just awful. So you can use them in certain projects like this. It'll work just fine. If you're making a bunch of dangles, you can do the same thing. You can just roll it down and you can dangle with it. So you don't want to cut them off and try to just do a single roll. It just doesn't work. Now, I have got this ear wire, and so because of the way it's formed and because of this ball on the end, I don't think my little loop is going to fit over it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide it in on this end, and then I'm going to open this a little bit and then close it, straighten it all out. These are soft and weird ones too, but now I have a really pretty set of earrings, and I used some of the things that I didn't think I would ever be able to use just by modifying the way I used them a little bit. And we'll do that maybe with a charm bracelet on this particular tutorial or something, make a whole bunch of little charms by just wrapping the head pins, the little skinny head pins, more than once, just wrapping them around like we did these. And it works out just fine for something like that. But other than that, you can't really use them. So let's do this and look at how pretty this necklace is. So in a matter of an hour or so, you can have two very pretty necklaces. And I've got stuff all over my bead mat because I've got things everywhere. When I'm designing, I get everything out. Everything I can find has to be on my bead mat. Don't ask me why, but it has to. And then pretty soon I have to stop and clean it all up because it drives me crazy. But right now I got stuff everywhere. So I've got a pair of earrings for this one and this necklace here. And get it nice and neat and pretty. And then a pair of earrings for this one. See if I actually picked up the two that match, because I made Yeah, that works. So you could sit down and in an hour you could have 2 gifts, or you can do even more if you're a little faster than me. So there you have it. Really pretty necklaces, and I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I'm going to do another one just combining a bunch of little projects together so that you have a bunch of little things to choose from and start making your Christmas presents. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.